You're listening to the Bust-Proof Business Podcast, taking your business to the next level by taking you out of it. With our experience and proven results, we'll help you find the success that many crave, but only we can help you achieve. It's time to get started with your host, Greg Murphy.
Hey guys, it's Greg Murphy from the Bust-Proof Business Podcast. Today, my guest is Stephen Peterson. Now, Stephen is, if you guys listen to this, you most likely listen to the eCommerce Momentum Podcast as well. And he's interviewed 200 entrepreneurs and e-commerce sellers to learn their story. And in fact, for a little bit, I think he sort of switches tables on me, becomes a little bit my therapist, and interviews me a little bit on accident. I don't think he can help himself. But he's going to be here in sunny Dayton, Ohio, June 9th and 10th for the Bust-Proof Live event that we have this year. Last year's was a great success. We're super proud of it. And this year, we're going to do the same thing again. You can learn more, bustproofbusiness.com. You can go to the store there and get you a ticket if you haven't yet. We're going to cap it at 100 people. And so I think tickets we're probably going to sell out relatively quickly, but I wanted to make sure you guys know that's going to happen. Steve's going to be there, Andy Slammons, Nick and Anitra Jump, a bunch of my friends are going to show up, and it's going to be a really good time. We're going to have the event. We're going to do a tour of the warehouse, a tour of the bookstore. It's going to be a great time. So, but anyway, with all that being said, let's get to the interview. Stephen Peterson, who's going to be talking about 6 traits that all entrepreneurs need to have. Hey guys, it's Greg Murphy from the Bust-Proof Business Podcast, and today I'm with my good friend Stephen Peterson. You guys might know him from the eCommerce Momentum, which is the real Amazon podcast for the grown-ups. Stephen's here with me, and Stephen, I told you many times I want to be like you when I grow up.
Well, that's a big statement. A, I got a lot of years on you, so you got a lot of time to figure it out. B, you'll never be as good looking as I am, but you still have a shot at the other side.
Obviously that's always you're way out of my league, Mr. Peterson. I know that.
Sure. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
right.
So Stephen, you've interviewed. If you guys haven't heard of this eCommerce Momentum podcast, you definitely should check it out. I can't imagine that you would be listening to this and not know about it though. So Stephen, you've interviewed almost 200 entrepreneurs now. Is that correct?
Correct. Just a little under 200. Mm-hmm.
And so you've learned a little bit. I know you had one very good looking guy that you interviewed way back in the beginning. I
haven't had you on the second time yet.
No. Oh no, I know you have, but I was talking about, I was one of the top, I think I was in the top 10, or not the top 10, but the first 10.
There's no question. Well, no, definitely top 10 too. But yeah, you were definitely one of the first few that I've interviewed. When you're doing this, as you know, it's uncomfortable to hear your own voice and get, to figure it out. And so you go to the people, your friends, and you go there, because they'll tell you, Steve, you're an idiot. Stop doing that, that kind of thing. And so that's why I go right to my friends. So yeah, you were one of the first.
And so you're learning a lot. I know you're going to be here at Bust-Proof Live, June 9th and 10th, and I'm very thankful that you're going to come and hang out with us. But what are you going to be talking about with us there at the event?
Well, I'm very thankful that you invited me, and I mean that. So I've been out talking in the different circles, and I kind of changed it each time I go to a place a little bit different based on the audience. And knowing your audience some are newer sellers, some are probably haven't sold that are interested in selling, and then you've got some really advanced sellers. A lot of what I'm talking about is the skill sets, the traits that I've seen and that I think a lot of people will resonate with, that successful sellers. And it doesn't have to be only on Amazon, because a lot of these traits you can transfer into a brick and mortar. You could transfer it to eBay, to Jet, to Walmart, to any of those, or your own website. Right? These things, or just a flea market in some cases. It's the ability, these traits that people have to have that I've seen over time. And if you don't have them, you hire them, or you outsource them, or you partner with someone. And it hurts, because some of these traits I'm not the greatest at. and that hurts. But I've been able to hire out, and I use Karen Locker as my account manager on Amazon. She is into the minutia. She loves that junk, and she's very good at it. And so there's a good example of something I have no interest. 3 seconds in, I lose interest, so I've hired that service out for her.
Now, I know that when we talked about your podcast in the early days of it, you said to me one time that it was amazing to you how many of the entrepreneurs that you spoke with have maybe not ADD, but some type of like attention, like having a hard time focus on one thing, just bounce from idea to idea. Is that something that you're finding is continuous now that you've been doing this almost 200 times?
Yeah, definitely. And it depends on the seller. So I just came back from the Resonate conference, Jeff Cohen from Seller Labs. And it was more the $1 million to $5 million seller who want to get bigger. Interestingly, a younger crowd, which was interesting, much more tech savvy, which was very interesting. And so a lot of what they're doing, they are not interested in, and there was a lot of private label people there. And so they come at it from a different point of view. And where I think that they struggle, where I see them struggling, is the amount of data that they're getting is so voluminous and the changes are so frequent in that technical side. And so it's kind of, I think that's messing up people. And so if you're not wired, to be, myopic and you're focused on one thing, you can really struggle because there's, you're now spinning 27 plates just in one segment, let alone, all the other segments you got to think about.
And I've said this a lot, and this is what keeps me sane with the kind of, ADD or whatever. I don't know. I hate using that term when there are people that really have a real medical condition.
Right. You haven't been diagnosed. Right.
But
right.
I mean,
now you do have, you are a thinking guy. So you tend to think a lot.
But the issue is that what I try to make myself to overcome that is I try to give myself a low information diet as much as I can. I don't want to be overwhelmed with too many different things, right? So in terms of selling, when I talk to people about selling books, nowadays people are looking at these keepagraphs and they're trying to project how many is going to sell over this. I'm like, guys, you need 2 pieces of data and that's it. Oh no, is that me? Daggone it! Shit, I can't believe that.
So just cut that out and start that section over. No stress. I have a no stress policy on my podcast. You need to have it on yours.
Right. Okay. So that was good though. That was a good little bit. So what was I saying about?
So you just start back and go back and say, hey, I tell these guys the 2 pieces.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to take it all the way back to. Okay, hold on. Let me think here. Okay, so for me, it's important to have a low information diet. I don't want to be distracted by all of these things, all this information that's not super important. And so with the guys you're talking to, there is tons of data. And for book guys, I tell my guys that really there's 2 or 3 pieces of data that you really have to look at. You don't need to worry about the keepagraphs and all this other stuff, how many you're going to sell in 6 months. All of that information is it's too much. What you need to focus on is selling more books, right? I mean, you don't need to worry about all that.
So what's the data that you tell people to look at? What are those 2 pieces of data?
Well, and basically it's the price and the sales rank. That's basically it.
Price and sales rank. So those are the 2 key indicators, right? Assuming because in book world, the grading, assuming everybody's honest, right? I always assume everybody is. If their only difference then is price, right? I mean, in theory, right? If you're FBA or if you're sending it, in theory, it's just price, right? So that makes a lot of sense.
And even with the grading, Stephen. So, we found that from our data, we've had some folks do some analysis, and there's not a big difference in either sales velocity or even sales price for acceptable books versus good.
Yeah, and you're hedging your bet by saying acceptable, right? You're saying, hey, this is you set the bar for expectation, and then when you give them something better in their mind than acceptable, you've over-delivered. That's a big deal. Well, to me, that's very smart.
It's also keeping it simple. So we only want to sell acceptable or good so that my team has to make fewer decisions.
That's very smart.
So But yeah, so let's get, so you're talking about the guys at Jeff Cohen's conference, how they, they're overwhelmed with all this data, and are they having the same, things like me, Slammons, Greg Purdy, Chris Green, big time, having the same problem with focus, right? Are you seeing these newer guys having the same issues?
What I'm seeing with this particular conference, no. These are, believe it or not, much more educated, a lot younger. Clearly, they are building a business, and so they've outsourced a whole portion of their business. So they don't seem to be jumping around as much. Again, and this conference was different than all the other conferences. I went to Prosper this year. I've been to, I was just at the ACE conference, and I've been to a couple other ones, and this year. And this is definitely a different conference, that Resonate conference, absolutely different, much higher level, again, much more sophisticated. They're going, I'll be honest with you, though, a lot of them want to go where you're going, where they want to open a retail or another distribution channel. A lot of them are doing it on their own websites or that kind of thing, a Shopify store or whatever. But they're doing, in that way, it's very similar to what Murphy Books is doing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think so. But I go to the other conferences. So I'll go to ACE, for example, right? I went to that conference, very similar. Yeah, because they're definitely, let's face it, it's very easy to get distracted because I can spend 5 minutes with Andy. And how could you not be pumped up about private label when just 5 minutes with Andy, right? Or Greg talks about books. It's very exciting. Wholesale. I've got so many great wholesale people. Jamie and Larissa Morales, amazing couple. And if they talk to you about wholesale and process and lifestyle, you will be jazzed and pumped. And so how do you not just move around your mind? Mind moves around from place to place. Yeah, I should do that one. Yeah, I should do that one. Yeah, I should do that one. So I think maybe the industry kind of affects you in some ways too.
Yeah, and
fair.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. What especially with marketing, I can translate it to marketing where I stopped going to the marketing events because I'm like, look, I have enough on my plate. I'm not taking action on the things I've already learned.
Period. You're not taking action. That's it.
So there's no reason to keep to continue. But for me anyway. But so now you're going to all these conferences. I know that for a long time you had a full-time job and then you were trying to do eBay and Amazon and then podcast. But it looks like they kicked you out, right?
Yeah, something like that. So it's funny. I say this is true because I get people, I don't know about you, but I get people coming up to me, hey, Steve, can you show me how to sell? Can you teach me what you do? And I'm like, look, for 6 years, so since 2011, I've been FBA. Prior to that, we were on eBay and we were merchant fulfill on Amazon. And I was the full-time controller of a company, a publicly traded company. That means a glorified accountant. And back in the old days, an accountant or controller or CFO was a different role than what it is today as you get more corporatized. This company had 48 legal entities, 48 locations with hundreds of legal entities. And so, we were publicly traded, means there's lots of rules, lots of Sarbanes rules and stuff. So a lot of things. However, I laid off 80% of the staff at this particular location since I've been there, involved in it. And so it's evolved. What I used to do, I don't do anymore. I didn't do anymore. I haven't seen a check in years. I haven't seen an invoice. Like we don't even do our own invoices. They're done in another state. And so that kind of stuff happened. In the meantime, I started an eBay business way back and got into it and enjoyed it. Started selling books, found out about Amazon, got into books. And I remember going, this is funny, you guys will appreciate this. I went to a book sale, library book sale, but it was off-site. They were holding it somewhere else for whatever reason. And I remember going in and I remember seeing this guy with this little dinky thing in his hand. And he's scanning. So I'm like, what the heck is that? At that point, I actually had a contact at Amazon's headquarters. And he was a vice president of blah, blah, blah. I don't even know how him and I connected. And I sent him a note. I said, hey, I was at this thing and I saw this little, he goes, oh, Steve, take a look at this. You're only your eyes are only getting started to be opened. And all of a sudden, boom, and then I saw the PDA. Back then there were PDAs and stuff. But he had a little handheld that connected to his PDA. But it was it blew my mind. And so immediately I was in with the scanner. I still have them somewhere around here with the download the data, download it before I'd go to a sale, and it would beep, and that whole thing. Make the cash register sound back then.
Yep.
I forget what server it was, A-Seller Tool, I think it was who I was using, and it was great. And then over time, it evolved into, hey, you can do more than books. The A-Seller tool also gives you toys, and it lets you do CDs and DVDs. And so it expanded over time. And then I found out about FBA, and now I sell mostly shoes, clothing, and private label products that we have in health and beauty. So it's evolved. I then decided to create a podcast, as you know, a couple of years, almost 2 years ago. And so I would literally get up at 4 a.m, be at my warehouse by 4:30, work until 7:40, 7:50, go to work, go at lunchtime back to my warehouse, ship whatever else, because I merchant fulfill a lot of stuff. We have 4,000 eBay listings live. And then I'd go back to work. About 4:30, my wife and I'd go to the gym every day, come home, and then I'd record my podcast or edit my podcast the next night, whatever. And I did that for 2 years. I did the other role for almost 6 years. And we've been very fortunate, and things, knock on wood, have done well. I've been able to walk away from a 6-figure job at 51, and it is a retirement. I did retire officially because I didn't go take another job. They're like, oh, what are you going to do? I'm like, nothing. Same thing I've been doing since somebody was like, hey, what's Monday look like for you? I'm like, pretty much every other Monday. The only difference is I'm not coming in here. And so the company was very good to me. I've been very fortunate. And if they need help, I would help them, of course. But it's been very, it's been 2.5 weeks, I think, Craig. So it's a little new for me, but it's been interesting.
Then what does you're used to having a regimented schedule every hour of the day, and, plus your background in accounting, every hour of your day is booked usually. And now you have to be, so how is that happen? Are you eating Cheerios and watching daytime television?
No, I wouldn't eat the Cheerios because I don't like them, but, I'm very distracted. I'm not organized yet, but I'm traveling a lot. So I'm giving myself a little bit of leeway because I'm very fearful. A couple of my friends, my really good friends around here, have said, oh, you're never going to work as hard as you are now. And I'm like, guys, I don't think so. I don't think they knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? Getting up at 4:30. I always say that to myself, and I'm not bragging. I'm not special, but I used to say, you know how many people are doing this? None of my friends. They had a 9-to-5 job. They're all professionals, and they leave their job home. They weren't getting called. My job was a 7-day-a-week job. I'm the guy when the alarms go off in the building, when the water pressure drops in the town, it affects your sprinkler system. Your alarms go on, guess who they call? I'm that guy, right? And so I've been doing that for years and years and never made a big deal out of it because that's just everything I've always known. So they keep saying I'm going to work harder. I refuse to because I'm very worried about that. I don't want that part of, I walk away from responsibility intentionally. So I want to be very intentional about my future. So I'm struggling to figure it out. Today, after this, I'm going to the gym. My wife, I'm going to work out at lunchtime. And right after that, I'm seeing my trainer for some weight training. And then this afternoon, I think that's pretty much it for the day. I did record an episode last night, and I've already edited it. So that's next week. And I'm doing an interview this weekend. But outside of that, I'm kind of turning off the business for the day. I had already shipped today. My merchant fulfilled, already got some FBA out. So that's my day. Yesterday, I cut the grass during the day, Greg. I weed eated. I painted some in the house. So it's kind of weird. And it's like the other day, this is really stupid. I needed something from the store. It was like 7:30 at night. In the past, I would never go to the store that late at night because I was in bed by 9 o'clock because I'm getting up at 4, right? Yeah. I went to the store at 7:30 at night. I didn't know if they were still open because I've been so long. I've never been in the store. I know. I'm living on the edge.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. You sound happy. You always sound happy, but you sound a little more content, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. That's a great word to use, contentment. And what's content for me is not content for you, right? You've got a little one. I've got 2 granddaughters and a 3rd granddaughter on the way. And so It was great. I went to Atlanta, down to Resonate. I was able to go down the night before and stay at my kids' house because they're about an hour from that airport, Baltimore.
Okay.
And so I was able to have dinner with my granddaughters, hang out with my son and my daughter-in-law, get up in the morning and just leave and do my thing. And I'll probably do that again this week because I'm traveling to Providence. And so it's just so cool to be flexible. Or they could call me and say, hey, Dad, could you come down and help? I'm helping him remodel his kitchen. Had to go down and take out some cabinets so he can get a new fridge installed. Sure, I can be right down. And it's about an hour and 5 minutes. I can drive down, take care of that. That's exciting to me. To me, that's a life that I've always wanted. I've never had. I've been in corporate America for 30 years. Very fortunate, very lucky, but that's all I've ever known. So to have this is very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, you sound pumped up. I'm really happy for you. For me, I've struggled with, people ask me the question about, what is enough? What is going to be enough? And I mean, I don't know, man. It makes me nervous to think that I don't know. There's not a number. There's not, the point is the money part of it is, I'm not going to buy a bigger TV. I might travel a little bit more, but I mean, for me, it's just about, I want to build something, And so
right.
And so I'm willing to work as much as I have to work to do that, as long as I enjoy it.
Well, you're not afraid of responsibility. And I think that's probably the bigger difference is I don't want the responsibility. I've had it for so long, for so much. I don't want it. I don't want it. Right. For you, you're not afraid of it because you are trying to build something. And I applaud for, it's funny when I do an interview, the best thing I get from the interview, I get to check it off as another one that I don't want to do. Seeing your operation. No, well, but it's true. You make it look easy. You talk like, hey, it's no big deal. Well, let me tell you, it is a big deal. Seeing in an operation, that takes a very, not creative, a very focused mind to be able to figure out how to reduce the number of touch points that you have, right? Think about when you started to where you are today. That's evolved over time. That's taken a lot of capacity, and you have it. I check that off as Steve doesn't have it. Check, another one I don't want to do. And so your business is very attractive because of its simplicity, yet it scares me to death because of the quantity of responsibility and the number of moving pieces and the brains that it takes to do that. Well, not Steve, check.
I don't think so. But the best part of the business for me is people that buy books locally are the nicest people that I know. And so we get to help people. We get to give books away to teachers and to parents and stuff. And we just get to see happy faces. I mean, in Amazon, you don't get to see your customers. The only time they talk to you is when they're mad. So, I mean, it's just a nicer place to work, to just make people in my community happier.
Let me make this comment because I think this is fair. A private label person. So I have my own products. Mm-hmm. They're U.S. manufactured. I'm praying they come in this week. When it sells and I satisfy that customer, just the fact that it's sold and I created it from birth, right? With Andy and Leron's help, they helped me develop it. And then, I get involved in it and get involved in the decision. I've been able to create this. And then when a customer buys it and the transaction goes smoothly and hopefully, even if they don't leave me feedback, I don't even care. I feel very rewarded, right? That's a very rewarding thing. I've been able to do that. In your world, you're getting to see something, a widget that you didn't create, that you didn't invent, you didn't do anything with it. So that's the difference. So it's like going to buy something at Target and selling it on Amazon or eBay, wherever you sell it. It's not very rewarding other than you get some money. Okay, well, if that's your driver and there are people that's their driver, God bless them. Cool, not me. What you're doing is you are taking, I like you call yourself garbage man, but you've taken stuff out of what people perceive there's no value. You found and connected with the person who understands the value for that moment for themselves. That's a very awesome thing. And to me, it's just the same thing as that private label guy. And I think I applaud it. I remember you and I were in Nashville last year and we went to that bookstore. I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
You were like, Steve, wait till you see this. You were casting a vision. You're like, wait till you see this. It blew my mind. And as we were up on the balcony looking down, I saw it and I saw your smile on your face like a Cheshire cat because I could see That's your element. You saw those people who were buying things and you could see you could serve them. And that's very cool to me. Very, very cool.
I feel like this is becoming therapy for me rather than an interview of you, Steve. I think we're doing this wrong.
Well, you should feel good about it. I want you to feel good about what you're doing because I applaud you. I told you I was speaking with another seller this weekend who was on a similar path. And I use you in one of my presentations because I think when you say this is the first of my nationwide bookstores, there's no doubt in my mind you believe that.
I hope so.
There's no doubt in my mind that you believe that. And that's awesome.
Well, I still got 30 years left,
That's living, dude. That's living. You're living a life fulfilled for Greg Murphy, and that's awesome. So to me, that's very cool.
Well, let's talk about someone other than me.
Okay. I will. I can talk about it. I love to talk. That's why I have a podcast. I love to talk.
Well, yeah, let's talk about your podcast. Okay. So we talked about there's almost 200 episodes. I know that the advice you gave me was to be consistent. And I'll tell you what, it is much harder than I thought it would be when I first started, I tried to put out 2 episodes a week. That's too much work for me. I just have too much other things going on. So we changed the format, about 1 episode a week. We're going to release on Thursdays from now on. And a podcast is a lot more work than I thought it was. Were there any times that you thought that, hey, this might not work for me?
I to be honest with you, I think all the time because they call it an imposter syndrome. I don't like the sound of my voice. So when people tell me I have the voice for radio, it's very hard to hear that. I just take it like John Lawson says, just say thank you and move on. But it's hard because I don't hear it. I don't think I'm that entertaining, but people say I am. So So those are the things that I have, the self-doubt. That's what I have to deal with. But I push through because then I'm at this event and people come up to me and say the most wonderful things, and it warms my heart. And so to me, that's what pushes me through those times. So yeah, we all struggle. There are lots of times my interviews don't go right. The systems fail. Last night I was doing 2 interviews. I did one. It was amazing. Oh my God, it's so good. She is amazing. The second one, the internet did not work well for us. And in the past, that would make me crazy and freak me out. Now I just manage it, reschedule it, and I can just work my way through it. That's taken 195 times to get to that place. And so that's my advice to you is, guess what? You're going to figure it out. You'll figure out your flow. What works for you is different than me. And once you get comfortable, you'll roll with it because you've got that gift.
So are there any, I know for me, my favorite podcast of yours was with Dan Miller, when you got to interview Dan Miller. I was so excited for you. I know that was a special moment for you, but what else stands out to you, over these past, 200 or so eps?
I think each person, like I get jazzed, it's funny when I used to do these in my basement and I'd come upstairs and I'd like skip a stair every time because I was so jazzed after talking to inspiring people. How could you not be inspired, right? So I get something from every single person I talk with, and I get to see things. And then when I re-interview them, I try to re-interview them a year and a half later, to see where they were going and how it's evolved, or they dialed it differently, or they went there and didn't like it and they moved on. Man, that just makes it even better because you got to participate in that person's evolution from the sidelines. But I got to see it because I kind of knew it. And then I see where they went. And I thought to myself, man, imagine knowing that, imagine being able to see those trends. You know what I mean? To me, that's very, very cool. And that's what I get inspired. So every single person I talk to, let me think of a good one. That would be Dan Wentworth is a great guy. Okay. Dan Wentworth is a seller. He's in the Boston area, up by Chris Green, up that way. And what's so cool about it, and he was a district manager for some drugstores, right? Mm-hmm. So think about the skill sets that he learned. He's managing managers, right? So each manager is responsible for their location. He had several, 3 to 5 or whatever, and he'd travel and help them. He'd go and get the best from that manager who got the best from his team and that whole thing. And so he learned this skill set, and then he starts an eBay business selling shoes. But we're talking millions of dollars in shoes. That's not a big, that's a big undertaking. That's nothing, that's not a streaking violet there. That is shipping out hundreds of pairs. It ends up not doing well or whatever. He ends up moving into Amazon. He's now doing millions of dollars a year selling shoes on Amazon. He's getting ready to open his 3rd location. in California. Now he's up on the East Coast. He's got a Midwest operation, and he's opening his West Coast operation. And I remember talking with him, and I said, Dean, you've become a district manager again. And he paused, and we talked about it for a second. And it's like, you're right. To me, that is a cool story. He learned that skill set from his life, from his pre-Amazon life, and he's able to go in there and get the best now. He's building teams in each of those, and he has the skill set. And so every person I talk with has a life and life experiences, and then when they can bring them into their business, because for me, I don't know about you, Greg, but I think I'm correct even about you, my business and my life are becoming one. The seller I interviewed last night, she said the coolest thing about their business, they were able to go to Bora Bora for 2 weeks, first class, stayed in a first class hotel. The requirement was the hotel had to have really good internet connection, because guess what? They're going to work on their Amazon business. They're going to work on their Amazon business from there, because it's not like when you take your phone because the company might call you and you're on call 24/7 and there's the stress of that. This was hey, I got to keep my thing rolling so I can enjoy myself and board. It becomes one.
Right.
Not in a bad way. And that's the way my life is. And that's when I start seeing people doing that. It's so cool. And Dan's a great example of that.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, that is a great story. And there's 190 something other great stories.
And each one is exactly that. That's right. Each person has their own story, and they're not going to be as successful as Greg Murphy. Okay. I don't want to be as successful as Greg Murphy. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And I think that's the lesson, is that, you have booksellers that are all different levels. Do they all need to become giant operations like yours?
No, definitely.
I would hope
not.
you're not teaching that.
No,
right?
not at all. Not at all.
Right. And so isn't that the coolest part of what you do, is you get to help people all along that journey and let them figure where they want to go on that journey? To me, that's very exciting. I'm very excited about what you're doing. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I do. I'm excited as well. It is great to see, especially at when we get together once a year at the Busproof live event, because these are guys where at all these other conferences there might be 10 or 12 book guys, maybe. And everyone's talking about these things that we don't even really understand what the heck you guys are talking about. And so it's great when we can all get together and just and we can just talk about books, and we're not like the ugly stepchildren or the misfit toys at the conference. No,
you're in some ways you guys are the envy, other than the counterfeit books that are out there, right? That piece dips into both worlds. Generally speaking, you're in a more protected bubble because physical product. Generally, it's original. You don't have to worry about it being counterfeit, right? Generally, those things. So you have an island, and so generally you don't get suspended for selling books, right? There's not a lot of risk for that. At least it wasn't. Now things have changed. My biggest challenge is to be able to relate my interviews, because I interview booksellers and big sellers like you, but I also interview private label people or services. So I'm going to try to find a way. Hopefully, what my talk will bring for people is it'll expand their knowledge base or their vision. I want to bring it out a little wider so they can see that there's a bigger ocean and they're an important piece of it. And they found their little island to work on, and it's awesome. And so to me, that's, all this other stuff is great. But if you figured out yours, man, stay with it and go all in. So I'm hopefully that's what I want to. I'll hopefully inspire people there.
And so you're going to talk about before we got on. You said there were 6 traits that you.
I do. I have 6 traits that I have found, and I some of these came from Thompson from Prosper. I reworded it because I don't want to use his words, but I did ask for his permission. And then I modified them to what I'm seeing in different things. So here's what I say. I got 6 traits that I say. You must be a data investigator. You must be a strong negotiator. You must be an operations manager. You must be a noticer, a big thinker, and a visionary. Now, you have to have all those traits to be a successful seller today. And dare I say, you got to be good at least at one of them. But here's the deal. You've got to know all these things. You can outsource the ones that don't fit you. Doesn't mean you could give it up. you've got to know data, right? You've got to, in your world, you said there's two pieces of data, right? But it's a little bigger than that, isn't it, Greg? You've got to be able to scan and set your settings and all the rest of that jazz, right? To be able to get your profits right. And when the price of shipping changes or lead times, all those things, right? You've got to take data and, my description of data, right? Of data investigator, you've got to be able to accumulate, scrape, manage, measure, parse, select, and separate using the tools of today. And the tools of today are different than what they were when Steve was scanning way back, 5, 6, 7 years ago in a book sale with a PDA, right? I mean, it's different.
And so the other piece of that too, Stephen, right, is also separating the wheat from the chaff, right? To figure out what is important and what's not, to make sure that
that's really a big deal, very big deal. Because having data and doing nothing with it, right, or just getting overwhelmed by it, right? And so you've got to, and if you're not I said this to somebody, if you're not a numbers person, you hire a bookkeeper, right? Or if you're not but that doesn't mean you don't look at your profit and loss statement, right? You got to think about it that way. You still have a responsibility to run your business in a profitable way, or otherwise you won't be in business. But you don't have to know all the details of how that works. That's what you hire out. So you have to have the trait. You just don't have to be mired down in it. But when you do find the one that works for you, when it doesn't feel like work, man, just go all in on that, outsource the rest, or hire or partner with a strong partner who has that other skill set. And I have a bunch of interviews I've done where some of the partnerships, I think of Dave Matthews. I love Dave Matthews. I think you know who Dave is, right? Charming young guy, he's married, he's got just a great guy. He's got 2 business partners. He uses the term, instead of just saying it's a partnership, he loves his business partners. It's a friendship that has gone beyond just regular friendship. It's a love relationship, and not in a weird way. And what's so cool, though, is they each have a role in the business. They've got a guy who's a finance guy. That's what he knows, and he's in his lane. They've got a guy who runs their operations. That's his lane. And then Dave's in the product side, right? And they buy truckloads of Amazon returns and, parse it out, and they have a retail store. Actually, I think they're opening their second. But finding that lane for each of them and then embracing it allows none of them to feel like they're working at all. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. So that's what a data investigator, and I've got, as I said, 6 of those, and I go down into that level and talking about each one of them. And I give you real examples of people that I put into that category, and you're in one of those categories. And I'm not telling you which one. Okay. But what's so cool is that I can give you real life experience talking with these people and why I think they fit this category, and hopefully get your mind thinking, that's me. There was a guy, I just gave this part of the talk and resonate, and he came up to me, he said, "Did you come up with the word noticer?" I'm like, yes, but really I kind of stole it from Andy Andrews, who wrote the book called The Noticer. And because I'm a noticer, that's my superpower, right? I'm a noticer. I can walk in, I can recognize value. That's my skill set. And I said, yeah, I kind of did for this. And he goes, I've never realized, he said, that's me. He said, I've never had a word to describe it. Thank you so much, because it fit him and he resonates with it, with that term, resonate. He connects with that. And that's what's so awesome. To me, that made the whole thing worth it, because I was able to have him connect with something he already knew, but I helped him there. It's very awesome.
Great. Yeah, that is great. And I'm glad that you realized that, you are a noticer. Obviously but I mean, it's important for us all to know what we're great at. And what do you find of those 6 categories are the least interesting, or something that you have the least amount of ability with?
Well, a data investigator, I have an accounting degree, so I can, build models. That's what I used. And in the end, that's generally what I would be doing, is building financial models. So I could do it. I'm not thrilled about it. I'm more analytical, so I can do some of the parsing and stuff like that. But getting mired down into that bores me to tears. I'm a very strong negotiator. I am a win-win kind of person, so I feel good about that. Operations, I like it, but I lose interest in it very, very quickly. I think of, it just doesn't it doesn't hold my interest. Big thinker, I'm not certain I'm a big thinker, because I'm so reserved and I'm, just gun shy. So I don't think I would fit that. Visionary, I know where we want to go with our business and our multiple businesses, but I'm not sure I can see that far out. I don't know if I want to look that far out. And so I would say those would be some of the ones I would probably be challenged more so with.
Okay, great. So we talked about how you recently retired from your account, or what was your position there at your company?
I was a controller. This last place, I was the controller.
Controller, which I don't even.
So I am the controller.
It sounds like a made up word.
I was responsible for finance, local HR, that kind of stuff. I negotiate contracts, read contracts. I mean, you still have financial close our books every month, do a profit and loss, balance sheet, but we're publicly traded. So then you have to, there's a whole bunch of things you attest to and you get audited and that whole jazz. So
sounds like a
glorified accountant.
Sounds like a blast. So how much time now that you're not controlling things anymore? So you have your days that you go to the grocery, watch daytime TV, whatever it is. But honestly, seriously though, how much time do you spend on your podcast versus on your Amazon and eBay stores? Like, I mean, how do you divide up your working time?
So I haven't figured that out because literally every week since I retired, I'm traveling. And so last week I was in New Jersey, and that was 3 or 4 days. This week past, I just got back from Atlanta, and that was 3 or 4 days. This Sunday, I'm going to Providence to Chris Green's conference. Oh, yeah. I get back, then I go to Breckenridge with Andy Slamans for his private label retreat, and we're going from Breckenridge to Vegas to a trade, not a trade event. It's a branding event. And then we fly back the following week. I literally fly back out to Denver to the Rocky Mountain Conference. Then I come back the week after, and I'm going to be in Dayton, Ohio for the Busproof.
Sunny Dayton, Ohio.
And then in June, I'm going to New York City. Amazon's having an event, I forget what it's called, but it's in New York City in June. So I'm going to be there. I'm not speaking right now. I'm just going as an attendee in an education event from Amazon. And I'm going to pop in a couple trade shows because I like going to trade shows in between. In July, we're going on vacation. My point is, I really haven't been able to get a schedule together. So that's confusing, and I understand that that's confusing, but I really don't have a routine, and I'm struggling with it because I am a routine-oriented person. I get to work. I knew exactly what I was doing. I had these done. Every Monday I did this. Every Tuesday I did this. So I haven't figured it out yet. I do 2 episodes a week currently. I plan on adding a third.
Oh.
I love it. I mean, I just love it. I met so many incredible people this past week. I don't know. It could take me months to get through them. I don't want to do that because their stories are so good. I got to get them out. I mean, it's so inspiring, And so I'm going to add a third episode a week. I did just hire an assistant to help me with putting out some of the information. So you're going to see a lot more of me. I'm going to speak a lot more. I'd love to talk if somebody's interested, if they have a group, especially if it's a meetup. I'd love to talk to the sellers because I love talking to people, right? One-on-one. I'll do that. And so I'm going to add another episode and we'll see, keep growing our business and we'll see. So I would say I probably work on the podcast every day.
So, well, that's
one way or another.
That's great. And especially when you have 3 episodes, I mean, that's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of work.
Yep.
Okay. Well, what's the best way?
But if I'm going to connect with great people, how's that work? If I get to talk with Greg Murphy and get inspired and get that message out to somebody else, I'm not, this is the way my mind thinks. It's funny. I don't ask, you've been on my show. I don't ask you a lot of questions up front. I really don't want to know. I like when they come out and we go a completely different direction than where the conversation I thought would go because it's so inspiring. I mean, that doesn't feel like work to me, Greg. I mean, honestly, it really doesn't.
Well, then you're going to have a nice retirement then. But okay, well, Steve,
it's true. I mean, it doesn't feel like work.
I'm sure it doesn't. I feel I don't know that. Like for me, my podcast isn't. I don't know. I'm definitely going to edit this part out. But yeah, for me, my podcast doesn't seem. I mean, I don't get to travel as much as you do. So it's less. Yeah,
you got a young Carol. You got a little kid. That's different.
No, I certainly do. And I'm feeling like for me the issue is that it's the time to reach out to folks and to really to build those connections that I'm not having. But yeah, I'm looking forward to really being able to dig into this too. You're obviously super inspiring to me. And I like to just have fun and meet people and talk about business. So,
well, you do a very good job because you talk at a different level because you're so involved in the or you were involved in the operation and decisions and stuff like that. That resonates with people very well because you've not just talk the talk, you've walked the walk, and that's very inspiring to me. That helps. That's why people connect with you.
All right, Steve. So where can we go? eCommercemomentum.com. Is that where we can go to reach out to you to learn more about what you're doing?
So you can go to eCommercemomentum.com. That'd be awesome. You can hear me on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Podbay, iHeartRadio. You could download my apps. I have an iTunes app, an Apple app, or I have an Android app. You can download it. It was so cool seeing people downloading it at the event I was at because they just come right in. It's my own app. Goes right to you. It just takes away all the other challenges. But there isn't a place I'm not. And very soon, I'm going to reactivate my YouTube efforts and probably do these under video. That's what they recommend. I go to podcast meetups. I love that too. You want to go hang out with those people. So inspiring. When you see what people are doing to connect with people, and it's so cool to meet them face to face afterwards. Greg, it's just awesome. It's when you meet your students or the people that you coach, when you get to meet them face to face. Isn't it incredible?
Yeah, it really is. Well,
so you can get me all those different places.
You're getting me all pumped up, brother. Well, thank you.
That's what I like it. A positive, man. I it's funny. This is the other truth, and I want you to think about this, is cut that negativity out of your life. There's only so much you can control, and I understand that. But outside of that, you got to choose to be content or happy, whatever that means for you. Cut that negativity out. I only talk positive because generally speaking, life is pretty good. There are many challenges. We all have had them, but man, I've met your daughter. Incredible. Love her.
Yeah, she's all right. I like her too.
Yeah.
All right, Steve. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, man. And I can't wait to see you for Busproof Live. You and Andy, it's going to be a riot. You guys are going to stay until Sunday, right? You're not leaving on Saturday?
Whatever I agreed to, I will do because I want that pizza. I want Mary Ann's pizza for sure. All right. Pizza. Remember, I don't eat meat, so I want pizza.
Oh, that's true.
I'm very excited about that, and I'm very excited about I can't wait to talk business with people. I'm going to jazz them up. I'm going to drink a lot of coffee. I'm a fast talker. I'm excited. I will be excited for sure. And I'm really excited about the group that you have because I'm so inspired to see so many people figuring it out in something they love. And it's very exciting for me. I can't wait to be there. I mean that.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I remember last year, we're able to deep dive into some of these topics since all of us are, in the same niche. We can really get really deep into some of these topics. So, but again, brother, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I can't wait to see you in June.
All right. Peace. Peace in your life. Take care.
That's all for this episode of the Busproof Business Podcast. Be sure to point your browser to busproofworkshop.com to sign up for our mailing list and to get your opportunity to enroll in one of our specialized seminars, guaranteeing you continued results in typical Busproof fashion. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to taking your business to the next level right here on the Busproof Business Podcast.